This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
When it comes to what your family eats and drinks, you know your choices matter. You're the expert because you know what fits your life. And getting it right starts with good information. That's why America's beverage companies are sharing more information about our ingredients at goodtoknowfacts.org. No spin, no judgments, just the facts straight from the experts for more than 140 beverage ingredients. Visit goodtoknowfacts.org.
I've been thinking a lot lately about Back to the Future Part 2. In the 1985 classic, Marty McFly makes a brief visit to the future, or, well, to 2015. And while he's there, he buys this sports almanac. He takes it back to the past, tempted by this idea to make money off of upcoming games. The only problem is, it's Biff Tannen, the McFly family's generational bully, who gets his hands on the scores, and he uses them to cheat his way to becoming one of the richest guys in America. It doesn't end well.
Discover how in 1979 Biff successfully lobbied to legalize gambling and turned Hill Valley's dilapidated courthouse into a beautiful casino hotel.
I just want to say one thing. God bless America.
Meet the women who shaded
Is this story about a millionaire tearing down a public government building to put up a giant vanity project a little too on the nose? Well, that's kind of my point. Because it feels like even though Marty eventually wound up correcting his timeline, our real world feels way too similar to Biff's gambling dystopia. Maybe it's because Marty only went to 2015. If he'd traveled just 3 years later, he could have witnessed the Supreme Court end the federal prohibition on sports gambling.
So there's, I believe, 38 states in Washington, D.C., in which sports gambling is now legal and regulated by the states.
That's Jay Willis, editor-in-chief of the legal website Balls and Strikes. He also writes about sports betting for Fast Company.
It's everywhere and it's easier. What differentiates sports gambling before 2018 and today is just how easy it is. It's something you can do in your downtime. It's something you can do on your second screening. It's something you can do on the toilet. I mean, there are no barriers anymore to placing bets.
I wanted to talk to Jay because of the NBA scandal that dropped a bomb on the sports world last week. In a pair of indictments, the federal government accused some huge names in pro basketball of, among other things, taking dives during games to help their friends win fixed bets, and partnering with the mafia to rig high-stakes poker games. The NBA has already promised a big review of what gambling websites let people place bets on. But Jay says he doesn't expect things to really change.
Despite the, occasional high-profile scandal, no one really thinks sports betting is going away because the sports books are so embedded in the fan experience now. It seems almost impossible to separate them from one another.
Here's the thing. I'm not just seeing this in sports. I'm not just seeing it in the NBA, but I'm seeing people day trading on their phones very quickly and very easily with the Robinhood app, for example. I'm seeing people try to make a quick bet and a quick profit on crypto and meme coins. I'm seeing betting on real world events on prediction markets like Kalshi and Polymarket. Is it possible to pinpoint when gambling got such a foothold in everyday life?
I do think it starts with the shift in sports betting because that introduced people to the possibility of being able to, in theory, capitalize on their intuition in a couple taps on the phone. I think sports betting introduced people to the idea that this could feel easy, and the market responded with a bunch of different ways for them to sort of go through that same process. There's politics bets, who will win which election. But on sites like Kalshi and Polymarket, as you say, you can bet on almost anything. You can bet on like when and where the next big earthquake will occur and of what magnitude it will be on the Richter scale. The only barrier to that is like the app is not quite as clean. You know, you might have to, horror of horrors, access this platform on a desktop computer instead of a phone. But like all of those bets are there a couple of taps away. And the only reason that those markets aren't as big yet is because those sites don't market their products quite as aggressively as these sports books. But I think that's mostly a matter of time, not like an inherent limitation on the size of those markets.
Today on the show, gambling is everywhere. Is anybody winning? I'm Rob Gunther, sitting in for Mary Harris. You're listening to What Next? Stick around.
This episode is brought to you by Quince. Cooler days call for layers that last. And Quince is your go-to for quality fall essentials that feel cozy, look refined, and will not blow your budget. You know what is something I did not know existed until I was cruising around Quince's website? Mongolian cashmere t-shirts. But when you think about it, an item like this totally makes sense. It's warm, but it still lets you enjoy a crisp fall breeze. It's casual, but you could still wear it to work. Anyway, it's a good example of what you'll find over at Quince. A whole lot of pieces that are gonna become your fall uniform. Not just those t-shirts, but also cashmere sweaters for just $50, premium denim, even luxe outerwear, like a whole bunch of leather jackets. All these pieces are the kind of wardrobe upgrade that feels smart, stylish, and effortless. Go find your fall staples at Quince. Go to quince.com/whatnext for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/whatnext to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/whatnext.
This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game, shifting a little money here, a little there, just hoping it all works out? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can be a better budgeter and potentially lower your insurance bill too. You tell Progressive what you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll help you find options within your budget. Try it today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Let's start with the big sports betting indictments from last week. Tell me about the poker games and the mob, the actual mafia. What happened there?
So there are two separate indictments, but they basically revolve around the same collection of people who were allegedly involved in two different shady enterprises. So certainly the more cinematic one is these poker games. These are private, illegal poker games. And when I say illegal, I just mean that they're, not conducted in a casino. It's taking place in someone's house. But these games were controlled allegedly by the mafia, and some of them were straight, which means they were illegal, they were unregulated, but the games were fair. And then some of them were rigged.
Yeah, they had like x-ray machines, special contact lenses. We've all seen the headlines out, right?
It's so cool. Like the Netflix series on this is going to be awesome when it happens eventually. I think the coolest one, is the glasses that sort of allow players at the table to see like invisible ink basically on the back of cards to understand what they were. And then, so basically there are these poker games going on in which these NBA players, former NBA players are playing. To some of the same characters, it sounds like, they sort of divulge information about the NBA.
And this is the second indictment you're talking about now, right?
Yes, this is where we bleed into the second indictment. These people with knowledge about the NBA are passing information along to bettors trying to make them like an easy payday and split the proceeds. So Chauncey Billups, coach of the Blazers, allegedly told some of the people connected with this game that, like, look, the Blazers are bad. It's the end of the season. We're trying to get a better draft pick. I'm going to sit my best players in this upcoming game. These guys place bets, but they also tell other people that they know to place bets. In some cases, they charge money for this information. They say, look, I've got something good. It's an easy winner. You've got to give me either an upfront fee or you've got to cut me in on your winnings. Damon Jones, similar. Again, he was in the orbit of the LA Lakers. So he would allegedly sell information about LeBron James not playing in games, for example. And then lastly, the other player involved in this is Terry Rozier, currently, for now, of the Miami Heat. After there were lots of bets on his unders, he agreed to pull himself early from a game and split the proceeds with those with whom he had set this plan.
Before last week's indictments, the NBA had taken steps to combat cheating spurred by sports betting. They pulled players from games. They banned players for life. But Jay says when it comes to gambling, people aren't thinking rationally, and reactive punishments only work so well.
Terry Rozier is in, I believe, the final year of a $96 million contract. That man does not want for cash. It is not the case that, people involved in this are rational actors who are just trying to make money. Like, part of it is the thrill of being able to get away with it. Part of it is, being able to help out some of your friends, enrich them, do a scheme with your buddies. There is a certain amount of the action is the juice wrapped up in all of this.
The reverse is also true. People who aren't cheating but are living in a cheating-rich environment, they start to be suspicious of everything. And that's changing how fans engage with games.
Anything you watch that doesn't go your way, if you are familiar with headlines about NBA players in any sport involved in scandals, it's going to be in the back of your mind like, hey, maybe I'm getting screwed here too. And the more scandals there are, the more that thought moves from the back of your mind to the front of your mind.
I want to take a little bit of a leap, but we saw Donald Trump, President Trump, posted this truth on Truth Social, his social platform, and he specifically invokes the NBA players cheating at cards, and he links it to Democrats cheating at elections, but he pardoned the founder of the cryptocurrency giant Binance last week. This is a guy who pleaded guilty to money laundering back in 2024. What kind of scams or scandals is this administration willing to tolerate? What kind of signals are they sending to the country, especially when he invokes the upcoming midterm elections?
With Trump, the most important scams to snuff out are the ones that he finds most offensive and that he considers threats primarily to his personal power and stature. So financial scams, Trump is very sympathetic to people involved in financial scams because so much of his career has been wrapped up in, let's say, some very shady dealings that have netted him a lot of money. So much of Trump's business now is tied up in the crypto industry. Of course, he's going to be sympathetic to people who, get targeted by regulators.
You were talking about crypto. The Trumps are making something like $5 billion when it comes to its various crypto ventures. They have digital currencies. They have meme coins. If we step back, do you consider crypto to be a form of gambling? It's certainly speculative, right? But if we're thinking about the line between gambling and scamming, where do you place crypto?
I think for most people, crypto is just like an inherently speculative asset. Most of the information that people who are betting on crypto are acting on is X accounts that are putting out tweets urging people to, buy this coin because it's just going up, up, up. If sports bettors are acting on, bad information that they imagine to be complete, normal people who gamble on crypto are acting on even worse information. Now, there are people, right, who understand crypto markets and understand in which ones to invest. But it's just like with sports betting. You can't beat the house here. You can't beat the experts. You can't beat the people who are involved in this, who are engrossed in this 24 hours a day.
There's so much speculation, both in the sports gambling, which will always be there, right? But then when it comes to betting on cryptocurrencies or betting on, the rapid investment in all things AI, these things are speculative until they're not speculative anymore, right? Because people can't gamble forever. Like eventually you either got to cash out or something's got to give.
The reason that new markets for people to lose their hard-earned money keep popping up is that gambling activity is just inherently not rational. People don't bet because they want to make a slow but steady profit. I think there's a perception out there that, professional gamblers, professional sports bettors especially, have sort of this magic touch, and they know how to play the game better than anyone, better than the house, and that they are just raking in money. And that's just not the case. Most sports bettors who are successful, who are professional sports bettors, place boring bets, primarily on money lines or against the spread, and their success rate is like mid-50s. They are making money, but they're not making a ton of money. They're making like a workaday income. There will always be people in anything, whether it's, politics, whether it's sports, whether it's who's going to win Grammys or Emmys and Oscars. There's always going to be people who think they can beat something in the mid-50s. That's not very high, right? And just the more that the market allows people to show off their purported expertise, to profit off of what they imagine to be their expertise, people are still going to do it. If betting were about making money, basically nobody would do it because nobody makes money off of it in the long term. You do it because you have an inflated sense of your own expertise, and at some point, just because it's fun. It's entertainment.
How do you imagine a society that's more embedded in a gambling culture? How do you imagine that will spill out into areas outside sports, into politics, into everything else that we do?
I am alarmed by the growth in politics betting because it feels to me like something that can just make a impossibly poisonous political culture somehow even worse. Think about how angry people, in many cases justifiably get over politics right now. The entire Republican Party in 2020 got reorganized around the idea that their candidate had been cheated out of an election that he rightfully won. Okay? Now, imagine a scenario playing out like that again. Shouldn't be especially hard to imagine because Trump's position on anything he loses is that he only lost because of cheating. Imagine if a bunch of the voters have collectively millions of dollars tied up in the election outcome. They place millions of dollars betting that their candidate is going to win because all their candidate does in public is say that he won. I don't want to get too speculative or doomsday-ish, but there was we are 5 years removed from an election in which people were so persuaded that the outcome was the product of cheating that they stormed the US Capitol in an effort to stop the certification of the results. I think that the potential for even more violence is much higher when people who have an emotional interest in the outcome of the election also have a financial one.
After the break, how do we place guardrails on our scammy culture, if we even want to?
This episode is brought to you by Saks Fifth Avenue. Saks makes it easy to find the perfect gifts and holiday looks that suit your personal style. The holidays can be a whole lot of things. Fun, relaxing, but also a little stressful. because you've got a long list of friends and family and you got to find a gift for everyone. If you go over to Saks.com, I guarantee it's going to jumpstart all of your ideas for what you should be getting your friends and family. It is the only website on the internet where you're going to find super high-end luxury Prada sneakers next to a crystal floral A-line gown from MacDougall. And then that's right next to a Cynthia Rowley ombre long-sleeved wetsuit. These are things I did not know existed until I went to Saks.com. And now I'm like, maybe I should be getting a bathing suit for my mom this Christmas. Maybe. Going into this holiday season, I feel confident Saks is there to help me find inspiration, curate a holiday wish list, pick out gifts for my loved ones, and have a look ready whatever might come my way. Whether it's an office holiday party, a cozy night in, or a vacation getaway, Saks has got everything you could want. If you're looking for shopping to be personalized and easy this holiday season, then head to Saks Fifth Avenue for inspiring ways to shop for everyone on your list.
This episode is brought to you by Jack Daniels. Jack Daniels and music are made for each other. They share a rhythm in the craft of making something timeless, while being a part of legendary nights. From backyard jams to sold-out arenas, there's a song in every toast. Please drink responsibly. Responsibility.org. Jack Daniels and Old No. 7 are registered trademarks. Tennessee whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume. Jack Daniel Distillery, Lynchburg, Tennessee.
With Multiview from Xfinity, you can watch up to 4 football games at once, which can lead to some tough choices.
French toast nibblers or breakfast nachos?
Actually, I was thinking about heading out only because I want to beat the traffic.
The best part of the sleepover is the next day. I was going to throw the games on.
Bobby Big Wheels.
I mean, how can you call yourself a sports fan without Xfinity? We got the multi-view.
The best college and pro games all in one place. I'm not going anywhere.
This is how football was meant to be watched. Xfinity. Imagine that. Restrictions apply. Multiview requires Xfinity 4K capable TV box.
Are there any efforts to put up some guardrails, some sort of regulation? I mean, the warning signs are there. Is there anything anybody's trying to do about this?
There's only going to be regulation if the people who have the authority to do so feel like it. And I just don't see anything out of the Trump administration so far to suggest that the CFTC is very interested in cracking down on this, and certainly nothing from Trump's political history to suggest that he would make this like a pet issue. Until we get an administration that, is interested in this aspect of enforcing the law, I just think it's going to be easier to bet on politics, not harder.
And if you look at sports as an example of an industry where there are regulators in place at the state level, we're finding it difficult to even put guardrails up against the kind of scandals that we've seen in the NBA this past week, right? So it's kind of like, how can we imagine a bigger, broader set of federal guidelines about something that may or may not happen in the future when the scandals that are happening right now, it's like we're not even prepared to deal with the crises that exist in the moment.
Yeah, part of the problem with the way the Supreme Court opened the door to legalized betting is that the thrust of their opinion in 2018 is just that the federal law prohibiting sports betting was struck down. But what Congress can do is still an open question. So in order to figure that out, you're going to have Congress pass a law, assuming you're talking about federal regulation. You're going to have Congress decide to pass a law limiting betting, despite the significant tax implications for states who very much want to keep this going, and despite the considerable lobbying efforts of FanDuel, DraftKings, all the other sports books who are making a ton of money off of this. And then that's immediately going to be subject to legal challenge because these sports books are going to say, the Supreme Court said that we can do this. So that process, again, if you could get Congress to act, which given what Congress is doing right now, I wouldn't hold my breath. If you could get Congress to act, we are talking about a years-long legal process of determining whether or not a law like that could have any teeth.
Yeah, it's because the consumers obviously want this. The sports books want this. The states want this for the revenue. The leagues want this because they're bringing more eyes on their product. It does seem like there's nobody in any corner that would be like, yeah, we really need to put a stop to this, aside from like people writing think pieces, right?
So the one thing I will say, everyone who is making a ton of money off this, wants sports betting to continue. One place we are seeing the numbers shift a little bit is actually in the public perception of sports betting. Pew did recent opinion polling on the subject, and the high-level takeaway is people are much more critical of the status quo than I would have guessed. 43% of respondents say that the prevalence of sports betting is a bad thing for society. 7% say it's good. 50% say neither good nor bad. Now, obviously, on the one hand, that is, a huge chunk, literally half of people who don't have a strong opinion on this either way. But 43% who say it's bad, that's up from 34% in 2022 when Pew last surveyed the subject. And it's actually fair here, if you dive into the numbers a little bit, to chalk up this change almost entirely to the growth of online and app-based betting. Because, again, compared to 2022, the percentage of people who are betting on games informally, with friends, with a bookie in fantasy leagues, and the percentage of people who are betting in casinos, that hasn't changed. It's only the percentage of people who say that they've bet online that is increased from 2022. So you have the number of people who are getting exposed to online betting going up, and the number of people who say betting is bad also going up.
Because I imagine that the more people actively bet, then the more people in a broader network are going to experience the negative consequences that inherently come along with gambling. Because, like you said before, most people aren't making money off of placing bets, right?
Yeah, my takeaway from these numbers is, in just about any other context, an industry that gets more unpopular as more people find out about its existence would be in real trouble. But this is where the strategy of the sports books comes into play. They worked so hard and invested so much money into integrating themselves into the fan experience, between the ads we talked about, official partnerships, right down to getting embedded into the NBA League Pass platform, that I think it's basically impossible now to put the toothpaste back in the tube. Even if lawmakers were inclined to roll back gambling and forego that tax revenue, the leagues that the sports books are paying handsomely would throw an absolute fit. It's basically a great rollout strategy. The sports books figured out a way to make themselves an integral part of the fan experience. And now, even as there's evidence that fans don't like this, they're not the ones passing laws.
Jay, you and I are both dads of young kids, and I get really sort of anxious thinking about what our kids' lives are going to look like. And I see it a lot because I find that the things that they do right now are already sort of like filled with little bits of gamification and gambling. Like my kids buy Pokemon cards, they're obsessed, and it really infuriates me when they spend $5 or $10 on a pack, open it up, leaf through every card, and then throw them all away because they were all duds and they didn't get like a pull, as they call them. They didn't get like a holographic card. I don't know. I just pair that with an article that you wrote recently about how one of the prediction markets, Kalshi, found this back door into allowing 18-year-olds to bet on sports. And I'm just sort of terrified for where our kids are headed. I don't know if you think about that as well.
Fortunately for me, I do live in one of the few nanny states that does not allow app-based betting anywhere. Shout out Washington for preventing me from following through on some of my worst ideas about who's going to win the Seahawks game. But yeah, I do think that just as children who are coming up now, who are developing their sports fandom, are not going to have a concept of watching a game separate from, where the money is on any particular outcome. I do think that future generations are getting used to the idea of someone always having a hand in the pocket, taking a few dollars at a time.
Jay, if you had to place a bet on how this is all going to turn out, what would you say?
Long term, I think there will be some kind of legislative response, because I don't think the status quo is tenable. I think there are going to be more scandals like this that erode more fan trust, to the point where the powers that be, both in the leagues, in government, eventually they have to do something more than nothing. I think my concern is I think that time horizon could be pretty significant. I think there could be a lot of scandals and a lot of ruined lives under the status quo in the meantime.
Jay, thank you so much for your time.
Hey, thanks for having me. I love the Chiefs tonight as 11-point favorites. Lock it in. This will come out after this game happens, so nobody can blame me for losing the money.
Jay Willis is the editor-in-chief at Balls and Strikes, which covers the law in the Supreme Court. He also writes about technology and business over at Fast Company. And that's the show. What Next is produced by Elena Schwartz, Anna Phillips, and Madeline Ducharme. Paige Osburn is the supervising producer of What Next and What Next TBD. Mia Lobel is the head of audio at Slate. Ben Richmond is the senior director of podcast operations. And I'm Rob Gunther, filling in for Mary Harris. You can find me over at Blue Sky. I'm at @OneRobGunther. Thanks for listening. Talk to you soon.
Doug. Here we have the Limu Emu in its natural habitat, helping people customize their car insurance and save hundreds with Liberty Mutual. Fascinating. It's accompanied by his natural ally, Doug.
Limu? Is that guy with the binoculars watching us?
Cut the camera. They see us.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Savings vary. Underwritten by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates. Excludes Massachusetts.
It's okay not to be perfect with finances. Experian is your big financial friend and here to help. Did you know you can get matched with credit cards on the app? Some cards are labeled no ding decline, which means if you're not approved, they won't hurt your credit scores. Download the Experian app for free today. Applying for no ding decline cards won't hurt your credit scores if you aren't initially approved. Initial approval will result in a hard inquiry, which may impact your credit scores.
Experian.